Greetings. We are Erin Jackson and Alyssa Lindsay, and current second-year medical students at Oklahoma State College of Osteopathic Medicine. We are excited to share the progress of our newly developed Health Science Pipeline Project through Sankofa School of Creative and Performing Arts. The Association of American Medical Colleges 2019 Diversity in Medicine Report reflects the shortage of minorities in medicine. Specifically, 5% of physicians identified as Black, African American, and 5% of doctors identified as Hispanic. These numbers propelled us to develop a health science pipeline project for the North Tulsa community, with the goal of exposing elementary students to the various aspects of careers within the health sciences. Before our project, there were programs for middle and high school students, but none for elementary within the North Tulsa community. Research shows that the earlier youth are exposed to an activity of interest, the more likely they are to pursue that activity long term. Therefore, we decided to work with elementary students. We provided engaging hands-on STEM activities, mentorship, guidance, and early exposure to the health sciences.
We impacted 28 bright and eager to learn students from Sankofa School of Creative and Performing Arts. The story of our student Dominique explains just how impactful this project has been. Dominique, who initially did not have an interest in science when we first began, recently asked me about the MCAT exam and medical residency. Dominique's mother recently told Erin how she comes home and talks about our session times. And she has even changed her career plans and is considering options within the field of medicine. This is what keeps us motivated to do the work we are doing. To celebrate the end of the year, we hosted a white coat ceremony. Students received their very own white coat, and it was an amazing time of reflection and celebration. As we move ahead towards sustainability, we have an awesome partnership with OSU Center for Health Sciences. They will support this initiative to keep this project going. Our goal is to make an even greater impact and extend our reach to additional students of color who will benefit from early exposure and awareness of the amazing opportunities within STEM and the health sciences.
As I reflect back on the last 12 months of my project, the key words that resonate with me in my experience as a leader are visionary and confidence. Growing up in North Tulsa, it wasn't until college that I personally experienced and saw for myself a physician who looked like me. Now, as a current medical student in my hometown, I always had the vision to create a platform and opportunity for my community and youth of North Tulsa to experience something that I did not. The impact that this project had on 28 amazing students who have now been exposed to the endless possibilities within STEM and the health sciences is more than I could ever imagine. I have also gained a greater confidence through this Albert Schweitzer leadership experience. I successfully navigated this project throughout a pandemic and overcame challenges along the way. I am now equipped with the leadership tools and confidence necessary to be successful in all my future endeavors, and have an amazing leadership experience to reflect back on to remind me that I can accomplish any difficult situation that may arise.
As a young elementary student, my mom bought me a Dr. playset, which included my very own white coat. It was from that point on that I said I wanted to be a doctor when I grew up. Although I didn't know anyone around me pursuing any sort of doctorate degree or career in the medical field, I was determined to stick to the goal of pursuing my childhood dream. Both the white coat and the encouragement from my mother made a lasting impression on me. She told me that I could be anything I wanted and that no one or nothing could stop me. That is where my drive for pursuing medicine originated from, and that is the same impact I wanted to have on each of our student participants. I wanted each one of them to know that they too can be a physician or pursue any career field of their choosing. Being able to accomplish that goal through my project as an Albert Schweitzer Fellow, especially in the midst of a pandemic, has allowed me to grow as a leader in ways I never imagined. It pushed me to step outside of my comfort zone. It gave me confidence that I could handle whatever life brings my way, and it allowed me to connect with the community and other leaders around me. I'm so grateful for how this past year has changed me, and I look forward to the journey and adventures ahead.
My name is Andrew O'Neill, and I'm a Master of Public Health student at Oklahoma State University. I grew up in rural Arkansas and as a gay man and experienced a lack of culturally sensitive services. My interests in the fellowship are rooted in this background. We know this is a broader issue with gay and bisexual men living in rural communities, facing immense health challenges. They might not have a healthcare provider that they trust, so they often delay accessing routine health services, which can lead to preventable health complications. Even if they are able to find a supportive healthcare provider in the city, they might not have the reliable transportation or the necessary insurance to see that provider. Additionally, the lack of a strong LGBT community around them can make them feel isolated and takes a toll on their psychological health as well. I chose to partner with Health Outreach Prevention Education, Inc., or HOPE for short, to address this health disparity in the rural communities surrounding Tulsa. My project's aim was to provide a way for these men to talk about their sexual health barriers that they experience and determine specific goals to safeguard their sexual health. Specifically, I wanted to provide HIV testing and help them establish individualized, feasible HIV risk reduction plans. Through my project, I was able to expand and enhance rural outreach at HOPE. I worked with HOPE staff to provide HIV testing in rural Oklahoma using the mobile testing van and reached men in over 20 counties in eastern Oklahoma. I worked with participants to identify feasible HIV risk reduction plan, utilizing motivational interviewing techniques, and provided follow-up phone calls for ongoing support, which was a new approach. There's one man in particular that I want to tell you about that participated in my project, and I met him out in the van while we were conducting outreach. And during our testing session together, he talked about wanting to start PrEP, a medication to prevent HIV, but was worried he couldn't afford it because he didn't have insurance. I worked with him and got him connected to the Get Prepped program at Morton Comprehensive that offers PrEP for those who are uninsured. And based on his experience and other men in my project, I was able to create a safe, non-judgmental space for men in these rural communities to really talk through their resources and make their own decisions about their sexual health. This year was a very powerful one for me, working with a community that is close to my heart. I got the chance to work on an issue that I'm passionate about. It's a very niche interest, yet I had the space to pilot a program through the fellowship. The fellowship gave me an opportunity to partner with a community agency and really enact what equity and mutual respect look like in a community partnership. Based on my fellowship experience, I decided to pursue a PhD with a particular focus on community partnerships in public health. One thing that I will take with me into my further studies and future career is valuing the importance of these community partnerships. The depth of knowledge of the people that do this work day to day, community connectedness, and their expertise inspires me. I am grateful for the skill set, experience, and knowledge that the fellowship has given me that I can carry forward.
Compared with 2019, in 2020, the proportion of mental health-related visits to emergency departments for all children under 18 increased by approximately a third across the U.S. As fourth-year medical students at the OUTU School of Community Medicine, we've noticed that young people in our community struggle to cope with stress and strong feelings. So we wanted to address this by teaching mindfulness techniques to help participants recognize emotions and provide a skill set to help them deal with stressful situations.
Due to the pandemic, we had to be flexible and say yes to opportunities. Ultimately, we continuously morphed our curriculum to the needs of what became several community sites. While maintaining a key relationship with our initial site, AfterOp, we started teaching via Zoom early in the year in partnership with the Tulsa City County Library. Following that, we worked with 60 Tulsa public school teachers, allowing them to take skills back to their classrooms. Currently, we're teaching at Monroe Middle School in Miss Wilson's and Mrs. Smith's advisory classes, and the Salvation Army's Maybe Red Shield Boys and Girls Club. Along with that, we're working with AfterOp to recruit and start teaching mindfulness with a career planning component for 8th graders. Our very first Zoom session was with 10 teens and tweens from the Tulsa City County Library. Maddie was one of the most enthusiastic students, ready to learn about mindfulness, talking to us about the tingling sensation after a mindful breathing session, and then identifying the restlessness during body scan. Her openness to share allowed others to share more freely.
Throughout our project, one of the most powerful interactions I had this year was with Kayla, one of our 6th graders in Miss Wilson's advisory class at Monroe. She's always the first one to raise her hand and ask a question or share an experience related to the mindfulness prompt. One day, Kayla shared a story that she had heard from her grandmother, that we have two spirits within each of us, one that is compassionate and one that is angry. We each make a choice about which spirit we will listen to. The whole class listened, and many of the students nodded in agreement, while others appeared to be digesting this concept for the first time. My favorite parts of our project have been while our participants share and learn from each other. Throughout our Schweitzer Fellowship, we were creative and collaborative, calling upon various members of our community to help us enact the change we would like to see in our world. For example, I facilitated mindfulness sessions for Maggie Penny's Schweitzer project, and our conversations with one of our mentors, Stephanie Andrews, led us to teach teachers mindfulness. We grew as leaders by learning from each other as well. I learned that I can provide my best while also not expecting perfection. And through this insight, I was able to juggle serving at multiple sites and implementing our curriculum for a variety of populations.
Among the many nuggets I take away as a Schweitzer Fellow, I learned the skill to form connections and not to be afraid to ask for someone's time. Many of our connections with our community sites began through a simple email, a request to speak over the phone, and then establishing rapport through a warm Zoom meeting. This allowed us to embed the program in places we had never thought possible.
This experience collaborating and leading a project to address the mental health of adolescents has solidified my interest in working to ensure that every child is equipped with the tools and knowledge necessary for them to lead healthy and fulfilling lives. As I enter the next chapter of my training in pediatric medicine and child and adolescent psychiatry at Tufts Medical Center, I'm excited to use the skills I've developed and honed during my time as a Schweitzer Fellow.
Hands down, our project allowed me to strengthen my intention of pursuing psychiatry and focus on child and adolescent psychiatry. It is a very challenging field, and knowing that I have the capacity to focus my attention into specific initiatives will help me establish myself and take care of kiddos and families in the future.
I am Maggie Penny, the wife of a Marine veteran. In 2011, my spouse returned home from Operation Enduring Freedom in Afghanistan. I spent the next several years searching for support for the consequences that war had on my spouse and thus on me and my family. Combat injuries for service members include PTSD, traumatic brain injury, physical injuries, and lead to many issues including depression, anxiety, anger, and suicidality. The spouses and families of service members carry an emotional toll from the weight of these combat injuries. This has serious consequences on mental health, yet nothing existed in Tulsa to address this. So I decided to do something about this. I partnered with Community Service Council, an organization well known in Tulsa for finding creative solutions to make the lives of veterans better. I then worked with the University of Texas Institute for Military and Veteran Family Wellness to get certified as a facilitator for a curriculum they designed specifically for this population. My goal was to provide these spouses with relationships, tools, and support to enable them to thrive. Over the year, I worked with 2 cohorts of veteran spouses. Each cohort discussed lingering effects of service, PTSD, TBI, secondary trauma, among other topics. The outcomes of this project were immense. One participant, Angela, found our group after struggling with compassion fatigue as her spouse's caregiver. Angela found comfort in the peer support and resources to enact positive growth for her. Last month, I met with Elizabeth Wallace, soldier and family readiness specialist with the Oklahoma National Guard. Elizabeth told me that the spouses she works with every day are not prepared for the changes that their partners experience after military service. She told me that the consequences of this are many, including unmanageable family stress. After this fellowship year, I will continue this initiative with CSC, promoting and inspiring change in the military community to better prepare spouses for access to resources, transitions, mental health difficulties, and caregiving responsibilities. This year has echoed resilience for our world and for me. As a Schweitzer Fellow, I found a new confidence to launch and lead an effort in Oklahoma to offer crucial resources and support to an otherwise unattended to population. This year has allowed me to first recognize that this is a systemic problem in the military community, and second, it has allowed me to find a leadership path that merges my personal, professional, and Schweitzer Fellowship experience.
I'm Hannah Clancy, an MAT student at TU. Before grad school, I taught and coached at Will Rogers High School. I noticed that student athletes I worked with, many of whom wanted to compete in college, struggled with mental health. At TU, I learned 1 in 3 college students experience significant mental health conditions. Of student athletes in that group, only 10% seek help. Poor coping skills leads vulnerable athletes to substance abuse, burnout, and suicide. My fellowship project aims to set up Rogers student athletes for success before they go to college. One predictive factor of managing mental health in adulthood is resiliency, aka mental fitness. This principle guided my Schweitzer project. Originally, I planned to have a rigid curriculum for cohorts of student athletes. Halfway through the fellowship year, I realized it was more impactful to listen to participants' needs and to incorporate what's going on in their life into sessions. For example, after a tough soccer game, where 5 girls received penalties for misconduct, my session focused on personal responsibility. As the girls described what happened, we did a team brainstorm on how to handle this situation in the future. Each athlete practiced changing their thought of "this ref is unfair" to something helpful like, "they missed that call, but that's going to happen in every game. Shake it off, keep going." After weeks of mental fitness practice, one day I arrived at session and the girls couldn't wait to tell me about their last game. "Miss Clancy, yesterday we were down 0-2 in our game. We normally would have given up, but we came together during halftime, stayed positive, and came back to win the game." I smiled big and told them how proud I was. I asked, "How did you feel?" They said they felt powerful. I thought to myself, it's happening. They're doing it. It's working. Other feedback about our sessions that I've since received have been things like, "I feel I've been able to open up more to my teammates. I feel more relaxed and less stressed now. I feel that it's changed how I view things completely. I'm a different person." Rogers student athletes are now building mental fitness. They see the powerful connection between mindset and their team's success. They know how to care for their minds and bodies today and beyond. Though my project is wrapping up, this work will continue at Rogers. I'm in the process of becoming the school's athletic trainer to begin this summer. After all, when I left the classroom in 2019, I did tell my principal I was merely taking a 2-year sabbatical. Then I'll be back. The Schweitzer Fellowship has meant a lot to me both professionally and personally. It's enriched my grad school experience and my mindset as a health professional. I've gained a deeper understanding of how to approach behavior change to maximize outcomes. I've learned to adapt to participants' self-identified goals, not my own ideal. As a leader, I was pushed to be comfortable being uncomfortable. The pandemic had a major impact on my mental wellness progress. Last summer, I wasn't sure I was going to finish grad school and my fellowship. I thought it'd be better to wait out the storm. But was this what I wanted to instill in my participants? I remembered that athletic trainers don't run from crises. We run towards it. I've always wanted to help people in their own mental wellness journey. Because of the fellowship, I now have the tools to do this work. I'm grateful to have collaborated with talented health professionals in my cohort and to be a Schweitzer Fellow for life. Thank you.
I'm Stephen Clausen.
And I'm Michael Crockett.
Oklahoma ranks high in the nation for poor health outcomes. In our state, there are low expectations for state-mandated health education. Our project enhanced health literacy in our Tulsa community by teaching relevant and dynamic health education topics to students at Union High School. Over the course of this past year, we worked with 6 cohorts of on-level, non-advanced placement science students. We shared 6 health education topics that covered subjects such as the importance of mental health, diet, and exercise. Some of the tools we used to interact with the students were Kahoot trivia and Zoom check-in sessions. At the beginning of our project, we found out that many students felt stuck with making positive lifestyle changes. Our project helped students develop healthy habits. Through surveys and Zoom chat functions, the students told us they made lifestyle changes because of their time with us. Some added meditation into their routine, others increased fruit and vegetable consumption, and some set a sleep schedule for the first time. These outcomes demonstrate that the students find importance of making positive lifestyle behavior changes. The students exemplified the ability, albeit challenging, to recognize, adapt to, and overcome unhealthy lifestyle habits.
As with any project, especially during the pandemic, there were many challenges to overcome. We adapted to distance learning by creating interactive presentations through Google Slides and met with the students virtually via Zoom. Patience and openness to adapting to schedule changes allowed us to make it through circumstances beyond our control. The teachers we worked with said masks acted like muzzles and it was a struggle to engage the students. We met this challenge by encouraging the use of chat and Zoom and introducing small group sessions after school to provide an environment conducive to conversation. This allowed students to share interest and ask fantastic questions. Another challenge was communicating with English second language students, because neither of us speak Spanish. We overcame this by having a Spanish speaker translate the material we used in the sessions. We've recently shared survey information with the 2 teachers we work with to show our sessions were effective. Jennifer Cole, our site mentor, has already told us that she wants to continue the project in the future and said medical students provide credibility to the topic. To allow this project to continue providing benefit, we are working with the School of Community Medicine at OU Tulsa to come up with a plan to continue the program and possibly expand to other Tulsa public schools.
As the year unfolded, it was clear that COVID-19 greatly impacted our students' ability to learn. Our site mentor told us that even some of the most excelling students at the high school were now facing mental health challenges that they had never faced before. In addition, we were told that roughly 70% of Union High School seniors, which is approximately 700 students, failed at least one class this academic year and are at risk for not graduating. These comments are striking and are a strong indicator that our project, with the inclusion of coping techniques, are needed now more than ever. Our project reminds me that my future patients are reflections of the current health of our community, and the project allowed me to practice educating and informing others about positive lifestyle changes. Thinking about my career goals of becoming a community physician, the fellowship has strengthened my passion to focus on the needs of the community, as well as shown me the importance of continuing to sharpen the saw of personal leadership skills.
I think what surprised me the most is these teenagers understood the importance of health and want to work to improve their outcomes. I felt a sense of purpose every time Stephen and I met with them. You would never know what questions they would ask, and it was fun to be put on the spot to use the knowledge I've gained in medical school in a practical situation. The fellowship showed me many individuals I did not suspect care about their health, in fact do. Compared to other Western nations, it is disheartening to know the U.S. has lower health outcomes, despite greater spending per capita. The students we worked with at Union were not given knowledge and skills to live a healthy life, causing this cycle to perpetuate. However, this project has been a ray of sunshine. I didn't expect to have so many students willingly learn and make efforts to change their behaviors. Working with such an enthusiastic group of kids has been very inspiring.
According to the CDC, 1 in 4 Americans are diagnosed with disabilities. Persons with disabilities are twice as likely as those without to develop conditions like high blood pressure and diabetes. Due to the lack of resources, many are limited in their ability to obtain and prepare healthy meals that can contribute to a healthier lifestyle. The Center for Individuals with Physical Challenges is a resource for people living with disabilities in Tulsa. The center provides numerous resources for members to be active and fulfilled. Yet we found out last year from one of the staff members that there is a lack of nutritional education opportunities for the members. She noted that many get their lunch from vending machines and convenience stores and expressed excitement about starting our project to address this opportunity. Through our Schweitzer project, we partnered with the OU Culinary Medicine team to develop a curriculum that could foster independence and empower members to take a more confident role in the kitchen. It also encourages them to incorporate more plant-based foods into their daily lives. Our goal was to create an environment where the members could explore various approaches to healthy eating, feel more comfortable using kitchen equipment and adapted tools, and provide a program that could be sustained long after our project ended.
I want to tell you about Pam, a participant of ours who uses a wheelchair for her mobility. Pam came to our class eager to learn, yet fearful of the kitchen and facing many barriers to achieving a healthier lifestyle. Despite her barriers, she took our weekly lessons to heart, implementing our suggestions into her life. In just 4 short weeks, Pam transformed from a woman who could not cook on her stove and refused to touch a knife to someone organized in the kitchen, advocating for herself to obtain adaptive equipment, and feeling confident with handling an adaptive knife to prepare food. She even lost 6 pounds during this time, a health goal that she has struggled with for years prior. Pam's joy at her new skills and more accessible home were a huge encouragement for us. Other participants have expressed similar sentiments, and we have found that many have chosen to include more fruits, veggies, whole grains, nuts, seeds, and legumes into their diet after our workshop.
When beginning this fellowship, I loved the idea of implementing a program into the community and further developing my leadership skills. But I was uncertain on how to even begin. As we entered into our final workshop this past month, I started reflecting on the fellowship experience. I realized how far I had come. I began to see how serving my community was no longer a daunting task, but an opportunity that I could cherish and partake in for the rest of my life. The fellowship has given me the confidence and the tools to know that I can make a difference and a positive impact. One moment that really hit me was when one of the members, Jimmy, told me she was able to make food for her daughter for the first time in years. It was because of our program that we were able to help Jimmy and other members gain that sense of independence. I cannot begin to thank the fellowship and the mentorship we've had along the way for supporting us through this incredible journey. Now I am happy to say I see myself as a community leader.
This last year has been one of the most challenging and fulfilling times of my life. Designing and implementing a 200-hour project during a COVID world was something I never imagined myself doing. However, through various leadership trainings from the fellowship, guidance and advice from my numerous mentors, and our participants keeping me engaged and on my toes, we came out on the other side stronger than ever. The thing I feel most proud of is gaining the skills to realize that it is okay to ask for help as a leader and to find my people to carry out my vision alongside me. I am so proud of my team and thankful for what we have accomplished. It would take this entire time to thank each and every person who has helped us on this journey. I am excited for the future and the skills that I take with me into it. While I'm still learning and growing every day, I know that I can now better serve my community as a leader and as an Albert Schweitzer Fellow for Life. Thank you so much for all of your support.
Hi, my name is Tajay Jackson. I'm a graduating Master of Public Health student at OSU. Back in 2018-19, I served as a team leader with City Year at a TPS high school. At least twice a week, a team would come to me with questions regarding sexual health. Due to the constraints of my job, I was unable to provide them with adequate answers and would often have to refer them to another adult. The problem was there wasn't enough adults that they felt comfortable enough to talk with. One time, a teen came to me and asked where she can get a pregnancy test. At that moment, there was nothing I could do to help her. All I can do was hope to say, who could I refer her to that she would actually speak with? I was stumped. This unmet need has been sitting with me since my time at City Year. I saw the Schweitzer Fellowship as an opportunity to address it. When meeting with organizations, Amplify Youth Health Collective was one that I met with. I decided to ask them what their need was before I told them about my passion. What I was told was a parent/trusted adult education was something that they were interested in. In fact, Amplify's core value is parents/caregivers are the first and primary sexuality educators for children. This is when I knew that this partnership was a match made in heaven. Over the course of the year, I met with 4 cohorts and we met 4 times. We discussed topics such as personal values, consent, risk reduction, and many more. This program impacted the participants and Amplifying. First, the participants, because they would develop relationships due to the vulnerability and sensitivity that these sessions offered. This was important because they could share best practices and problem solve. What we learned over the course of the program was that parents wanted to have these conversations. They just needed the tools and resources to do so. One participant thanked me after a session because it allowed her to think outside of her own personal box and understand new perspectives. She told me that it opened her eyes to an alternative way of thinking. Because of the pandemic, most of my participants would spend all day on Zoom for work, yet they would still come to the virtual sessions during those evenings. I was so impressed and amazed by the dedication. These parents were committed to fighting the same cause that wanted me to start the program in the first place. This program also impacted Amplify because this summer they will be revamping it to make it their own. It also helped to launch a similar program for Spanish speakers. My experience as a Schweitzer Fellow has impacted my journey because it made me change the career option. I thought I wanted to be a pediatrician my entire life. However, I'm certain that I want to be an OBGYN. My goal is to continue to normalize the conversation of sexual health. I want to continue to expand upon this topic regardless of the setting. I can say that I created this program from nothing but a topic. I'm grateful for the opportunity to have been a Schweitzer Fellow. It allowed me to fall in love with the process of creating something that I was passionate about. There was times this year where I felt overwhelmed, thinking that this program may not get the support it needed due to the stigma behind the content. However, the team of mentors that I had this year believed in my vision. They gave me the boost I needed to not only think I can do it, but actually do it. Not only did I launch this program, but parents showed up every week. I created something that made a real impact on parents, on Amplify, and my journey. This experience gave me confidence. I kept hearing from past fellows to be flexible, but this year pushed me in ways that I never knew I can be tested. I learned to not only be dedicated to the outcome, but to the entire process. I'm grateful for the opportunity to have been a Schweitzer Fellow. It allowed me to fall in love with the process of creating something that I was passionate about, and then gave it back to the community. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Anlam, and I'm a third-year medical student at Oklahoma State University. I spent this year working with people recovering from substance use at 12 and 12. This particular population has been stigmatized in our society, and as a result, this led to barriers when seeking care. The particular opportunity I wanted to address with my project was how to link my participants with concrete tools for preventive healthcare outcomes. In the last year, I educated folks in recovery about preventive health, and thanks to the St. John's Foundation, I was able to offer tangible resources for my participants as well. During my time at 12 and 12, I met Kristen, who told me that she was afraid to go to the doctor about her substance use because she was afraid that the doctor would call DHS and she would then lose her children. This was so powerful to me because my participants already face challenges when it comes to seeking health care, but even in the event that it is possible, Kristen still did not feel safe doing so. While our community has taken many steps in the right direction in addiction medicine, there is still work to be done in Oklahoma to ensure that people like my participants have a safe space to find the care they need. So now I'd like to introduce you to Brad. Brad is a quiet guy in his 30s, and he never said more than yes or no during our first few classes. He had lived through homelessness and had been using methamphetamine for some time. During one of our sessions, I asked him if he had any goals that he wanted to set for himself, and he said, "I used to act kind of crazy because I was treated like I'm some crazy person when I was homeless, and I don't want that anymore." He wanted to bond with people, but wasn't sure how to get started. And just like that, he had opened up to us, and our group gave him the support that he needed. Brad's willingness to share about himself showed me the power of a safe space for my participants. When he felt comfortable opening up, this relationship became a part of his road to healing. I developed this project to teach about healthcare to people, but what I left feeling most proud of was that I was able to create a safe and non-judgmental space for folks like Brad. My project lives on in two concrete ways. First, I enabled some participants to establish primary care relationships at OSU Family Medicine. And second, 12 and 12 has planned to adapt this curriculum for their future clients as well. I moved to the United States as a young child, and I saw my dad struggle with getting adequate care, and this led to poor health outcomes for my father. His story and the stories that I embraced from my community drove my mission to become a physician. I firmly believe that no one should have to struggle to receive help, and this drives the underlying premise of my fellowship project to further understand the barriers of the recovering community. Down the road, I would like to assume a leadership position so that I can continue to work to lift these barriers for marginalized people and communities.
Hi everyone, I'm Sydney Wyatt.
And I'm Deirdre Kelly. Our Schweitzer project took place at the Wayman Tisdale Specialty Health Clinic in North Tulsa.
High blood pressure is a silent killer. This is because a patient can't feel when their blood pressure is high, yet it is damaging their body. Over time, this can lead to heart attacks, strokes, and kidney disease.
Oklahoma has one of the highest rates of uncontrolled high blood pressure and heart disease. African American communities have historically been underrepresented and underserved in medicine, which contributes to even higher rates of high blood pressure and heart disease when compared to Oklahoma as a whole. This is why we did our project in North Tulsa.
An important component of chronic disease management is lifestyle interventions. Yet the time structure of the clinic limits the ability of providers to do this. That's where we came in. We introduced an opportunity in the clinic flow for patients to ask their questions, learn more about important aspects of managing their high blood pressure, and come up with their own health goals. On a very typical Friday morning at the clinic, Deirdre and I met Mr. J. Upon our initial introduction, I felt as if I were transported into another time and another place when I was having a conversation with my grandfather. When we walked into the room, we saw a man who was defeated, and what we knew is that he had actually been fired from his previous provider because he was non-compliant. What we assumed he saw staring back at him were two inexperienced, overzealous medical students who were going to tell him for the millionth time what to do. I assumed walking in that all Mr. J needed was a simple list of what medications to take and when. I realized quickly that none of this was the problem. It was that he didn't want to take his medication, and more important than that, he simply didn't want to be told what to do. So I decided to ask him, what brings you joy? What I learned was that Mr. J, like my grandfather, was the man of the house. He was fiercely independent, slightly opinionated, and always taking care of his family. Mr. J enjoyed cooking for others. It was what brought him purpose. When speaking to him about his passion for cooking, he let his guard down and came alive. This simple question transformed this rigid encounter about high blood pressure management to a person-to-person connection. This interaction with Mr. J humbled me. It reminded me that the patient's why matters more than anything else. Uncovering the why transforms the priority from the chief complaint to living a good life.
At the beginning of this year, I was entirely out of my comfort zone. For starters, I thought I wanted to go into pediatrics and was not nearly as confident talking to adults about their health. At first, I stumbled and I fumbled, but it got easier. It helped that Sydney and I made a great team. But then we had two patient partners at once, and I had to do it all on my own. I met with who I will call Mrs. M. What I remember most about our conversation was the end. Mrs. M told me that the conversation had meant a lot to her. She asked if she could give me a hug. That hug, while a seemingly simple act, was transformative. I had never associated hugs with being in a clinic. Professionalism is important to the patient-physician relationship, and I thought professionalism meant hugs could not happen. What I now know is that professionalism to me will mean working for my patients and fostering trust and connection. Fridays, the day we go to Tisdale, have since become my favorite day of the week. I know that working with adults on chronic health conditions is the work I want to continue doing. It is my passion. I will be forever grateful to my Schweitzer journey. It allowed me to foster my strengths and to find connection in what I do.
If you would have asked me a year ago to describe myself, I would have said something cliche, like I'm a dreamer who wants to change the health landscape for Oklahomans. If you were to ask me a follow-up question about how I plan to make this happen, I wouldn't have had an answer for you. You see, that is the beauty of being a dreamer. It doesn't require a follow-up. Now a little wiser, I see the naivety in my description. If you were to ask me today how I would describe myself, I would say I'm a creator. Because a creator is someone who brings something into existence. The Schweitzer Fellowship held me accountable for making good on my audacious description of myself. It showed me that I can be so much more than just a dreamer. During the fellowship, Deirdre and I were met with countless challenges. We were forced to think creatively and find solutions to problems that on the surface looked solutionless. When looking at community health problems, I no longer have hesitancy or doubt. Instead, I am constantly thinking to myself, let's find, test, and implement ideas that may work or they may fall flat. At least if I fail, let's do it quickly and keep pushing until I find something that sticks. Moving forward in my career as a physician and an active community leader, I will use this year's worth of stories and problem solving to make changes for others. The Schweitzer Fellowship has transformed the dreamer to the creator.